Hey guys, it's your girl Melissa, right? So, as I'm learning more about my trauma and my own recovery, I'm learning a lot of things, right? When I go through meditation, I do my yoga, a lot of things in my circuits that was so tangled up are starting to loosen up, right? The grip. So, when I say like traumatic, right? A traumatic can be anything. No one is discussing with us the traumatic impacts that we have in our life, right? You can listen to a story and become traumatized. You can watch a television show and become traumatized. You can watch the news and become traumatized. You can actually be in the event and become traumatized. Or, you know, your trauma could have happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? But then it's resurfaced, right, in the present time. And it just keeps replaying and replaying and replaying, right? Those are all traumatic things. And then you're living in this vicious cycle of a loop. It's basically is a loop, right? I wish I had something like more better. So just take this pen, right? And let's say the pen was traumatic. Like something happened traumatic to the pen, right? And this is you. This is you. And let's say for example, a car accident happened, right? Everyone can mostly relate to that, right? You're in the car driving, right? And then this other car comes and like, you know what I mean, driving, boom, right? That is a traumatic experience. But what happened with that traumatic experience, right? However, how you're reacting during that collision may still replay with you. It doesn't mean it's happening to everyone, right? This is just an example, right? And then your brain goes into a loop, and then every time now you're in a new car, right? You're going to keep thinking, what if I get into an accident? What is this going on? And then you're on high vigilance because you can't calm down every time you're now in your car driving, because now your brain is looping, right? It's always scanning and searching for things that can go wrong, And then even when you're in class or you're home, you may even be thinking that a car is going to come through your window. That's irrational, right? Because I never seen a car going through a second story window, right? But that's how trauma works. A lot of things that's not possible, you would think it's possible because it keeps you in that state of fear, right? Now your brain is always scanning and scanning and scanning. And then your anxiety is constantly escalating, right? And depending on how old you was when the trauma happened. So let's take me for example, right? When my trauma happened, I was 6 years old, right? I did the research, I did the thing, and I was like, shh, right? Here I am, 34 years old, trying to process a 6-year-old brain. I can't, right? I can't get into that 6-year-old brain no more because that already happened. So it is crazy for me to really get into that brain or tap into it. Although subconsciously I know what is happening and I can feel the fear of that 6-year-old and I can feel the hesitation and I can really understand to a certain extent, what's occurring at my age, right? At 34 years old, I know what's happening. At 6 years old, I don't know what the hell is happening. I can't even explain half the shit I did at 6 years old. No, I used to bite my best friend all the time. And I don't even know why. I used to stutter as well. You know, I used to eat my boogies like at 6 years old. Like, and here I am trying to tap in to something that happened to me years ago as a kid. And I can't even, in order for me to really understand a 6 year old, I can see a 6 year old and I'm like, yo, they really not thinking. They can make sense of certain things, but certain things they're just not mature enough for, right? And when trauma is happening, depending on how old you were, that's what's occurring. You can't make sense of everything, right? So your brain is trying to make sense, right? And it's like sometimes you just can't, and like I know a lot of people take on guilt and shame, right? Due to like other incidents that occur. Let's say another example, like a fire happened, right? And no one knows how to respond to that. No one is doing really fire checks and stuff like that. Usually a lot of people aren't, right? And even in the event that you are doing fire check or what to do, right? Safety plans, right? It doesn't mean you're going to behave that way when it happens because it's so traumatic that you really can't get stuck or don't know what to do, right? Even though you know what to do, sometimes you just, when it's happening, you're in that moment, right? And then after that moment passes or whatever happens, you always have the what ifs. Oh, I could have, or I what, I should have. That is such an unhealthy state, because life happens, right? And it unfolds, and however how you respond is exactly how you responded. You can't get mad at yourself for responding in that manner. You can't like think about what ifs, what could have, or what should have, because that's unrealistic for you, because you can't go back and do it. What's done is already done. So then what you're doing is trying to take all these extreme precautions that's actually keeping you more sick and keeping you in that same state. And what trauma does, it takes you all the way back. So what my trauma was doing, right, since my trauma was 6 years old, it was trying to tell me, right, that I knew exactly what was happening and I knew what was doing. See, at 34, I know exactly what's happening. I know exactly what's going on. At 6, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's occurring. I know I'm scared, right? And my cousin, right, since she was raped, it's been confirmed that she's been raped several times, right? It wasn't her fault, right? That's not her fault that she's reenacting the behavior, but the pressure of her pressuring me into something was basically what triggered me, right? And at 34, I know my sexuality. I know, you know what I mean? Things like, of course. But at 6 years old, I knew nothing about sexuality. I was just like, I didn't know what was going on. But since, you know what I mean, but I took blame, I took responsibility. I took a lot of things that I shouldn't have taken. And more when I talk about my cousin, like I'm learning to embrace her more and realize, wow, like her story was, she wanted me to help her. But I'm 6, I can't help nothing. Like I'm so confused too, but we take on these things that we should have did this and what ifs and what coulds, and instead of accepting the trauma what it is, and we shouldn't be penalizing ourselves for things that happen, but we do it all the time. We are our worst enemy, and no one else is doing it to us. We're doing it to ourselves. Whether it's a sexual experience, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a fire, like we think, well, we could have did this, we could have did that, but if you could have, you would have. Like that's what people don't understand. There, when the trauma is happening, you don't always know what to do, and you can be prepared. You can study for it too. But once it's happening, that's a whole nother story. Once it's going on, you don't know what to do. Like it's a different experience, and we get so caught up in like, it's our fault, it's our fault, but it's really not. A lot of times things are happening that's not our fault, and we take responsibility when we shouldn't have. We should accept it for what it's for. Like, if we could have did better, we could. But we didn't, because we didn't know no better. Didn't know how to respond. And that's okay. We don't always know how to respond. And now we're preparing for the next time and the next time. But it doesn't mean the next time you're going to always know what to exactly do. You just be more, you're already experienced it. So I don't know, you may freeze up again. Or you may honestly like do it differently, right? Or that may never happen again. It already happened. So we take on responsibilities that we shouldn't have. We take on pain, we take on guilt, we take on shame, and that's what keeps us stuck. And then on top of that, we take on a mentality depending on what the trauma is. Whether you was 10 years old when the trauma happened, whether you was 6 years old, whether you was 20 years old, you have to understand that brain was not completely developed. Especially the younger you are, the lesser experience you have, so you don't really know how to process. So you got to look at the lens from that brain, a 6-year-old brain, a 7-year-old brain, an 8-year-old brain, when it's happening, and not when you're an adult and now you know how to process, now you know how to think, now you know how to navigate, now you have all these tools that you didn't have. And sometimes when people experience trauma too, depending on what it is, they may not have those tools then. They may not have been equipped with those things, right? But yet they are still like in this state. Most of the time when trauma is happening to us, it's not even our fault. It's someone else bringing in their energy to our surface, and we're taking in their trauma. You know what I mean? Like a lot of us, like a lot of times when I find myself in these situations, it's not even about me. It's about them. Like when my cousin was doing what she was doing, it wasn't about me. It had nothing to do with me. It was about her trying to process her trauma. It was her trying to seek help possibly, or her trying to make sense of what happened to her pain. And depending on what your trauma is, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's a fire related, whether it's a car accident, whether it's anything can be traumatic depending on the circumstances. You know what I mean? No one should be invalidating nobody else's feelings, right, or emotions, or what they think is trauma, because for so long I was like, no one's going to take me seriously because my trauma was a kid, and like what happened to me was I was a kid, and no one's going to really believe that was abuse or anything like that, and people are going to automatically blame me because I was the older kid, and now I'm going to be in trouble for something I really didn't do, right? That was all wrong. Because once I started articulating my story, it all made sense. And people wasn't pointing the finger at me. And people wasn't blaming me. People felt bad for me. And people understood. And people felt bad for my cousin. Felt bad for both of us. That was me. Putting those harsh statistics on me, or thinking about what I read in the stories, like without even really knowing the accuracy of that. So sometimes we take on so much pain that we shouldn't have. So this message was really about when did your trauma happen, and taking in the time to really absorb it and thinking about it from the lens of when the trauma happened, and not the lens of the aftermath or what you could have or what you should have. And because all that do is keep you in the loop. Stop. We have to stop. We have to say no. We can't continue to live in the loop. We can't go back to the past, and we can't think from that brain. You have to look at it from that traumatic state or what that person was in. That's what we need to look at. If not, it's going to be more events in life, and you're just going to keep piling on the trauma, piling on things that you don't need to pile on. I hope you understood the message very well and got clarity on what I meant with the brain, as in what brain are you in. You know what I mean? The trauma brain or in your brain. It is two different things. The trauma lives in your subconscious. Your conscious brain knows no. We have to stop it from allowing it to stay in loop. You know, because we know that it already passed. But the subconscious doesn't know. Later, guys. I hope that helps. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want me to touch on different topics, let me know. Please subscribe. Please share videos. Please, I want to know your feedback, how you feel about it. If you want me to get more into topics about different things, I definitely want to know, because that way I want this to be interactive and not just me speaking. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate everyone's support, and I love you all. Bye.